All right. Are we good to go? Do I get the official nod from Deirdre?
Um, yeah, we're good to go. If one thing, when you're answering a question, can you first repeat that question on Mumble? That makes the recordings a bit more sense making.
Absolutely. Not an issue. And firstly, let me apologize, please, for being 50 minutes late. Sorry, guys, but we just bagged a super carrier. We just took down Nick's, and that's got to take priority. All right. Let's get started. Thank you. Thank you for the congrats. All right, so I've been asked to provide a little FC training for you folks, and I've done this module in the past for these. Very, very happy to be invited back to do this again. If you have questions, ask as we go along. I'll do my best to answer questions as we go. I'm going to run with a basic presumption that you have a general idea of how fleets work and how they're composed. And if it's not the case, please tell me now, and I'll backtrack that a little bit. All right. Then we're going to go with the presumption that you have some basic fleet ideas. But really what the basic FC training is all about, in a nutshell, is that it's leadership training. Because really all an FC is leader on the field. Responsibility of the FC, the primary responsibility, is the safety of the fleet. I'll say that probably a half dozen more times during this training session. The primary responsibility is the safety of the fleet. I can't reiterate that enough. The FC needs to make sure that they understand that there's a bunch of entrusting their hard-earned risk to them, and they're going to follow those commands. They're going to follow your commands. They're going to do whatever it is that you ask of them in hopes of bagging a kill or several kills. So as an FC, you need to respect that position. So things that you can do to make it really a good experience for everybody is set the ground rules up front. Make sure that everybody understands them before you get into a hairy situation where you have to STFU at people. It's just not a very, very good experience for anybody, and it makes you look like a bit of a overbearing ass when you do that. Nobody likes to hear STFU. Nobody likes being told STFU. If you get that out of the way right up front and you tell people what the expectations are, you can really reduce that experience. When you are the FC, your main goal is to generate a fun experience for the fleet, and that usually translates into getting kills. It's not always necessarily the case. You might be out on a roam just to, if you live in Nullsec, for example, just to do a security spot check in systems to see if there's anybody, farting around in your space. You might be out on a low-sec room just for lulz, just to see what you can generate, if anything at all. You might be on a suicide op where you've got a bunch of disposable T1 cruisers that are all fit for, they're all fit like glass cannons, and you're running around just trying to kill as much as you can before your ship and or pod get blown up. So if you set the goals for the fleet up front beforehand, if you set the rules up front before, everything else becomes really sort of secondary, and it all flows into line. The key here is to make sure that the goals and expectations are set up front. So you're the FC, you're putting together a fleet. Tell the people what it is that you expect to accomplish. Tell the people what it is you expect them to bring. Make sure that they adhere to those standards so that nobody's, running around in something that's going to either potentially put the fleet at risk or give them unfair advantage. I mean, great. Some people want to fly really, expensive stuff and toys. Wonderful. Go do that on your own and solo. But in a fleet of mine, you're not going to be flying one of those. You're going to be flying whatever it is that the rest of the fleet's going to be flying, and you'll be so set the goals up front, set the expectations up front in the fleet so that people understand what it is that they need to bring, what it is that you expect, what it is that you want to accomplish. You want to go out, you want to you want to take a suicide crew into 0-0 and you want to go and fly until everybody's ships are destroyed. People are going to fit accordingly. You want to go gate camp somewhere, great. People are going to fit accordingly. You want to take on a fleet that's coming up, you're going to fit accordingly. So if you set the expectation up front, you know exactly what it is that people are going to need, and you'll be able to communicate that with everybody. That way, when people are, coming on board, you can, you've already got that level in place, so people know what to expect. The key for being an FC is to remove as many surprises as possible from the operation. People don't like surprises in general. So if you can keep things relatively simple and keep things at a communication level where everybody understands, it's a good thing. So let's talk a little bit about situational awareness or field threat assessment, if you will. Eventually, when you're FCing, you're going to come to a situation where targets need to be called. Some FCs do things differently. One FC that I know specifically will focus on keeping the individual groups together, like the logistics, the ECM groups, the DPS groups. Focus on coordinating those efforts, while there will be somebody in the ECM group that's target calling for the ECM group. There's somebody in the logistics group that's target calling for the logistics group, and then there's somebody in the damage group that's calling for the DPS group. So depending on the size of the fleet that you're in, that's going to make a big difference in who is going to be giving you instructions on what to shoot and where to shoot. As an FC, really, if you can delegate as much of the responsibility as possible, it makes your job a lot easier. You don't need to be the scout, the primary caller, the target caller, the go-to person for everything. You can set a squad commander or a wing commander to be in charge of accepting gang invites if you don't know how to use the join fleet button. Or there's people that are outside of the fleet or outside of E-UNI that need to join up, or friends or whatever else. So you can have people looking after that. You can have people looking after those other individual components, as I mentioned earlier, like the logistics, the ECM, and the damage. The less you have to focus on, the more you can focus on the situational awareness and take a look at what's going on around you. Again, your primary responsibility is the safety of the fleet. So if you know what's going on around you, if you know what sort of jumps around you in every direction, the safety of the fleet is pretty much intact. You can make the decision to engage, to disengage, to run like hell, to gank, to suicide, to do whatever it is that you need to do, but you're going to need to rely on other people to do that. You can't be everything to everybody as an FC. You need to delegate some of that responsibility. So delegation is a key. The other thing that you need to really focus on is maintaining control in chaos. It's going to get crazy. When you have, like E-UNI, for example, is fielding a 100-man fleet and heading it into LOSEC, you got to understand, that's 99 other people that are trying to listen and communicate with you at the same time. So the more you delegate, the less you have to take in and focus only on the key people that you've delegated the responsibilities to. Take the information from them. And find a way to make Mumble work for you, because I know that there's ways to tweak Mumble that will allow you to whisper to certain people or communicate just to certain people and let those people disseminate the information and do what they need to do. It's not a power position. If you go on a power trip because you're the FC, people are going to not respect you. You need to realize that everybody is working with you. They're not working for you. They're not working under you. They're working with you. And they're working with you because you all have a common goal that's been set. So really, what is being an FC? An FC is being a fantastic vice president or a department or a senior manager, and having a bunch of junior managers that you're working with in order to prepare them to become FCs. It's leading by example. It's doing the things that you say, not telling people to do stuff and doing something else. It's leading by example. And really, it's understanding it's setting the understanding of what goals you want to achieve. So compare it. Take a step back and take a look at, positions of management. How is it any different? It's not. Okay, so what do you do as an FC? How do you do all of this? Well, I'd like to think that leadership is a skill. It's not something that you're born with. It's not a natural talent. It's something that you learn over time. And everybody is the same when they're born. They have the same skill set. Just some people happen to learn things at a different pace. Some people learn things faster. Some people learn things slower. Some people have to be told. You're going to develop the skill set, but the best way to do it is to just get into the role and start. You're going to make mistakes, and that's what makes you a better FC, is making mistakes. Making lots of mistakes is okay. Making lots of the same mistake, not so good. People stop trusting you when that happens. And don't be afraid to take responsibility. You are ultimately responsible. If something goes horribly wrong, you need to say, hey, guys, I'm sorry. I screwed up. That was my fault. I made the wrong call. You need to be able to step up and take that responsibility. Because if you take that responsibility, then other people are going to look up to you and they're going to say, you know what? Yeah, you know what? He screwed up, but he's okay. Or yeah, she screwed up, but she's all right. People are going to look up to you when you take that responsibility. I've often told people in my corporation that you're not an FC until you have accidentally a fleet. When you accidentally a fleet, you are now an FC, because you really have no appreciation or idea of how much ISK is at stake when you go out as an FC and you've got 100 ships under you, or you've got 50 battleships under you. You've really got no idea until you see a loss mail or several loss mails generated showing you the value of those ships. And once you see the value of those ships in black and white, or blue and white, or gold and white, whatever color your killboard happens to be, you get a very, very good and somber idea of just what it is that you're trying to protect. So the primary responsibility of the FC is what? Anybody? Safety of the fleet. Thank you. Keep that fleet alive. Take care of your feet. Take care of your fleet. No podiatrists here. Field threat assessment. Understanding what's on the field. Understanding through intel. Yeah, feet are important too. Understanding through intel what you have to work with, what you have coming at you, and what are your surroundings. Experience is the biggest factor, and again, the only way to get experience is to just do it. Maintaining control and chaos. I touched on this. Let me take it back to maintaining control and chaos, because this is really important, guys, gals, others. There's nothing worse than watching an FC have a meltdown. That impending sense of doom that just comes over you when the person who is leading you into battle just suddenly goes, oh my God, we're going to all fucking die. Pardon that. Oh my God, we're all going to friggin' die. You know what? There's nothing worse than that, ever. Unless, of course, that happens to be a goal. Paulus, I think only one person is supposed to be recording this, mate. Thanks. So you got to keep your head above water. You got to keep your head above water. You got to think clearly. You're going to have intel coming at you from every different angle. And if you're a really good FC and if you're a really smart leader, you're going to think ahead of the pack. You're going to have game plans formulated in your head about what's going to happen in this situation, what's going to happen in this situation if any of these things come up. You're going to have a game plan. If you don't, that's okay. You'll learn to develop one as you go. Thinking on your feet is a critical skill. But being able to maintain control in chaos, everything's going to hell and everything's going around you. The most important thing that you can do at that point is stay calm. The calm, reassuring voice. Yes, Deirdre, I do. I'm gonna repeat that question in just a second. The calm, reassuring voice is going to keep everyone together and focused. Now, I have a question from Deirdre who says, do you have tips for keeping calm and not freaking out if things go wrong? Yes. Tip number 1, take a deep breath. You know shit's going to hit the fan. You know it's going to go bad. You know there's nothing you can do about it. Take a deep breath, because freaking out isn't going to help. Take that 3 or 4 seconds, nice big alpha breath, let it out, and then okay. Repetition. Repetition is incredibly important when things are going chaotic. When we call targets in our fleets, the primary, secondary, and sometimes, depending on how much DPS we're fielding or what we're up against, a tertiary target will be repeated and repeated and repeated. The instructions repeated over and over and over again to make sure that everybody hears it, to make sure that everybody understands what's going on. And if you start to freak out, remember that everybody else is going to start to freak out. Everybody's looking to you for leadership here. You're going to have to say, I'm sorry I screwed up. But it's easier to say, I'm sorry I screwed up calm voice than to be a little nitty-natty chewing on your fingernails going, because, you look like an idiot when that happens. Take that deep breath. Disconnect yourself from it. Realize nothing you can do. Nothing you can do to change it. Save as much of the fleet as you can. And then make that your primary focus. If it means you lose your ship, you lose your ship. You give up your ship first before you give up anybody else's. You're the FC. But focus on getting the guys out. Get the team out. So repeat your instructions. Take that deep breath. Realize that there's nothing you can do, and you'll find that level of calm. You'll find that Zen space. Finally, the last thing to focus on when you're being an FC is to keep it fun, keep it engaging, keep people involved, give people roles in the fleet. Even if they're bullshit roles, give them a role. Make it their fleet. Give them a piece of ownership and make them accountable, and they will, believe it or not, step their game up 100%. Fleet manager. That's exactly what it is. Fleet manager is exactly what it is. Keep it fun, keep it engaging. You're going to find a lot of FCs have different rules for comms. Cakewalk, I'll talk about that in a minute. You're going to find a lot of different FCs are very different. Some FCs will have rules on comms, which is absolutely no comms, only the FC and scout and designates should be speaking. Some FCs will have absolutely no comms whatsoever and let you yap and yap and yap, all because they have to take control of comms. There's a fine line between the two. And that fine line is setting the rules when it's okay to yap and when it's not okay to yap, and making sure that everybody understands those rules up front. If you do that, then everybody gets to kind of, voice up, joke around, have some fun, and the boring segments when you're running from gate to gate or when you're, going 13 jumps into low sec to try and find a target and there's nothing there. But as soon as you see neutrals and local, as soon as you see a hostile and local, as you see whatever it is that you're going after, the discipline needs to kick in, and everybody needs to recognize that that's when it is. So again, going back to the responsibility, yes, guys, this is what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to go into system XYZ, and we're going to look for this type of target and this type of target, and hopefully we'll find them. while we're traveling, comms are relaxed and everything is okay, but if we come across a target of opportunity, I need everybody to please clear comms and make sure that instructions can be heard. Does anybody have a problem with that? Exactly. That's the way that it goes. But please, STFUs, you know what? I'm hardcore against STFUs. They're just, sometimes they're necessary. Sometimes you have to pull one out of your hat and just kind of toss it out there. But guys, battle comms. Guys, clear comms. Guys, I need your attention. Hey people, we got a target. Anything along those lines, just to recognize that that's the time to turn it off. But set that expectation up front so that nobody is left guessing. Basic FC training. There it is. What is it? Being an FC is being a leader. Being an FC is being responsible for the fleet. Being an FC is making sure that the safety of the fleet is your number one concern. It's understanding everything that's going on around you through intel. And it's maintaining control and chaos and keeping it fun. There's not a lot to it. It's really not a magical, position that only certain people can ever aspire to be. You just need experience. Questions? Question is, flying behind the lines in a COVOPS viable as FC or always in the thick of things with a big boat? Ikumo, that depends a lot on you as an FC. There are some FCs that will be in cloaky ships so that they can see what's going on. They'll actually be on the field, but they'll be in a cloaky ship, out of danger, so that they can focus on everything that's going on around them and not focus on themselves. If you find that you have a very, very short attention span, you're ADD, ADHD, whatever, that might be a good thing for you to help maintain the calmness. Personally, I like being right in the thick of things. It makes my blood boil when I get to do that, and it's a lot more fun. Question, what's the worst and best moment in my position as an FC? Gideon, the worst moment for me being an FC was the moment that I became one. Lots of people want me to FC all the time, and sometimes I just want to be sometimes I just want to be one of the guys. I just want to be in the gang. I don't want the responsibility of leading it. When you're a good FC, people are going to look to you for leadership all the time. And sometimes you just want to take a break, so you need to let them down slowly. Let them down lightly. Best moment for me as an FC was in Dodixie, where we had a war target that showed up in double the numbers that we had in remote rep battleships. We had 15, they had 30, and we left with 14, they left with 2. And we had it all on video. It was awesome and fun. Let's see. Dalen, how many fleets have you led approximately? Dalen, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say 1,000, give or take. Mindel, recommended ship for an FC. Whatever it is that you want everybody in, you should be in. Unless like Ikumo asked, if you're, somebody who really wants to stay out of the thick of it, back and manage from behind a desk, that's okay too. If you're a hands-off type of person, do it in a cloaky ship and keep yourself out of danger so that you can manage the danger aspect for everybody else. Motorbit, question, what do you think, how many information should be shared with the fleet? In the fleets I've been in, intel and battle plans usually were not shared with the whole fleet. That's a very good question, Motor, and it comes down to the trust level that you have with the people that you're flying with. If in certain situations, for example, when we were hunting this Nyx tonight, there was only about a handful of us that actually knew where the Nyx was, what the what the actual system was, what the Nyx was doing, where it was at, and what kind of support it had with it. Everybody else was told, get into this type of ship, get into this type of ship, and get into this type of ship, and meet at the Titan Pass, we're going to bridge. And that's exactly what we wound up doing. It's important to give as much information as possible without compromising the mission. When you are going after a specific target, limit the information to on a need-to-know basis. When you're going on a roam, this is the goals, and share it with everybody and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Cakewalk. Question, your views on giving specific target system to complete fleet in regards to op security. I think I just answered that with Motorbit. If I didn't, say so. This one time he killed the next. Okay. Yes, Seiki. I'm sorry. I was late. Pew Pew Lasers asks, did you start small or dive into FCing? Any strategies to promote FCs who might want to give FCing a try but are all too aware of their responsibility? Starting small is always a great way to do it. If you set the expectation up front as a starting small FC to say, go on cruisers and destroyers into low sec or null sec into a place where you know you're going to get some action, and you know you're probably going to come out in a pod or wake up in a clone somewhere. Setting that expectation up front makes it a lot easier to digest the loss that will most likely occur. However, taking down as much of the opposition in the meantime should be a primary concern, and have fun with it. You can always do a post-mortem afterwards, no pun intended, to take a look at what went right, what went wrong, and how do you what can you do to change the outcome next time, if anything. Paula Sanctus asks, would you recommend someone not comfortable with managing people at work FC? No, I would not. You have to be comfortable people. And I use the word leading. Managing is kind of a negative connotation word. Managing means you're exploiting resources. Leading means you're trying to get people to better themselves through their abilities. Would I recommend somebody or be comfortable with somebody leading a fleet that people are not good at managing or leading people? Give them the opportunity to try, but I probably wouldn't be very comfortable with it. Your first fleet was 200 plus. That's awesome, Niam. Question. Deirdre, is there anything an UFC can do to prepare tactics and strategy, or is it all down to experience? It's a combination of both. Common sense is unfortunately a very uncommon thing, so you have to rely on the fact that any plans that you make are going to support the first 10 seconds of your encounter, and after that, throw your plans out because everything's gone to hell in a handbasket. You can plan the first 10 seconds of the encounter. You can plan it till you're blue in the face, and then something throws a wrench into it. Shit happens, and you kind of got to think on the fly. So experience is a really big factor. However, spending a massive amount of time using tools like E-fitting tool and going through kill boards and looking at the targets and the kind of ships that they fly will give you a better idea to mentally prepare for. If you see that the target area that you're going into, you can search kill boards by regions, like Eve kill board. You want to go into, say, say you want to go to Aquarius. Okay, so you go into Aquarius and you check up Eve kill board and you find out that the 3-F pipe's always camped, and there's lots of kills in the 3-F pipe, and it usually consists of these types of ships. Well, then you can sort of semi-prepare for that, and you know that you're likely going to encounter something like that. But you have to expect the unexpected. Just like Alex said, until you run into a pirate fleet that's not where it's supposed to be, you know what? That happens. It happens a lot. But spend time doing research. If you're going to FC a group to a region that you're not familiar with, Do some research on that region. Do some research on the systems. Know where choke points are. Know where safe points are. Know where limits of your abilities go, and where you need to say, I'm not comfortable going any further into this point or past this point. Can somebody else take over, or do you guys want to turn around and head back? It's okay to recognize what your limitations are, and it's okay to say, hey, I'm not comfortable going past here. So as long as you, again, set the expectations up front with the fleet, and everybody should be okay. Mindel asks, what would you say is more important, the fun learning experience, keeping everyone engaged and part of it all, or keeping ISK damage low even if it means being a jerk if need be? Mindel, that's a great question, and that depends on what role, what life you've decided to play in EVE. If you've decided to play the role of Merc, unfortunately, keeping the ISK damage low, even if it means being a jerk, is sometimes going to be what makes the difference between you getting hired or not hired. People want to see ISK efficiency on contracts. People want to see that you have the ability to carry out your job. And if they see a crap ton of losses, well, it's not necessarily going to bode well. But there are ways around that. You don't have to be a jerk. You can set the expectation of the fleet up front that these are the ship types that we're going to be flying, and this is what we're going to be doing. And this is the expectation and result of what, end result of what we're looking for. If you do that, well, you might have a better chance at it. What's most important? Well, the fun. It's a game, right? It's supposed to be fun. And if you keep everybody engaged, and if you keep everybody talking, and if you keep everybody moving in the same direction as you, then it's fun. And as soon as people start to butt heads, or as soon as bad things start to happen, people start to not have fun, that's when the problems start. So the most important fact is to keep it fun, and then kind of strategize from there. Gravedom says, I've been learning ship types and roles of ships in low-sec space, around space. It's actually worth doing as a new player who wants to have C, or am I on the wrong path? I basically want preparation and knowledge so I don't make the mistakes from lack of knowing. That's a great thing to do. Another great tool to use is EVE fitting tools, and play with ships. Play with ship fittings. Set up in EVE fitting tools. There's a tune. Sharon, I'll get to that in a second. In the EVE fitting tools, there's a tune that's set up that's all level 5. Set up in all level 4 or in all level 3, so that you set up different levels of competency and skill points, so that you can see how the different fits are going to be affected. And that's the best thing you can do, is to start doing that, and looking at tons of kill boards and look at common fits. As much as I dislike Battle Clinic, you'll find lots of fits on Battle Clinic. EVE kill board, evekill.net, wonderful places to look at and see what's how are people fitting their ships, and look at losses. Losses are your best. Losses are your best signs, because you can see in losses how, is there a common theme to fitting a hurricane? Is there an armor fit for a hurricane that's better than, another armor fit? Is there a shield fit for a hurricane that's better than another fit? And you're going to find them. Jack Snipe asks, is there a way to understand if your fleet has a good chance of survival when you're not a very experienced player? When you're not a very experienced player, is there a way to understand if your fleet has a good chance of survival? No. No, there isn't. Assume the worst and go with the best. Jack, just tell people right up front, hey, you know what? We're going to probably die, so we're going to call this a suicide fleet. Please make sure that whatever you fly, you're willing to risk. I'm not an experienced FC. I'm trying and I'm learning. I'm open to feedback after we're done. People will respect that. People won't bring Sunday's best to that. They'll bring ships that they're willing to toss away. And that's okay, because you'll learn. Corgan, in another MMO, I had an understanding about, there's other MMOs? I had an understanding of about every single role fit possible, and that's what made me confident. How much do you think it affects your judgment when you form a fleet if you don't roll how to overcome that? Test server. Test server is your friend. If you don't understand a particular role, find people that can fill that role and get them to fight you on the test server and set up 2 fake fleets and go at it. How do you prioritize fleet targets, biggest damage dealers first, or logistic ships, or what? Well, that depends on the situation. Again, it depends on what you... Well, no. Alex, actually, that's wrong. If you focus on what's the biggest list on the field, you're going to lose. Your perfect example is this fight that we just had. I'm going to link the... Here, give me 1 second. Okay, so here's the kill summary. This is the kill summary. E-War is always primary. Why is E-War primary? Because if you have 10 ships and they have 5 ships and there is 1 E-War ship on the field that they have, they've just equalized the fight. It depends on what you have. If you have 20 ships and you're going after, say, 2 targets, it don't matter. Go with whatever you want, because the DPS you're going to put out is redonkulously huge. In the case of this particular fight that we just did, where we went hunting for this Nyx, we watched. We waited for the opportunity. There was a Phoenix on the field that self-destructed. No class, I tell you. An Archon, the Nyx, and there was a half-dozen battleships. One of the battleships managed to get away. The other 5 we tackled and killed first. Why did we tackle and kill the battleships first? The Nyx was pinned but wasn't going anywhere. The Archon and the Phoenix were pinned and weren't going anywhere. The 5 battleships posed the biggest risk to us because they could go after our fighters and our fighter bombers very easily. So we needed to take the ships off the field first. And they're also going to do the most damage to our Hicks that were on the field, holding the Nyx in place. So, no-brainer there, take out the support. Then we took out then we started to focus on the Archon, because the Archon was repping the Nyx. The super carrier pilots that we had with us were already focusing on the Nyx. But the Archon was still managing to keep the Nyx. I won't say it was keeping it alive, because the Nyx was in a quarter armor, but it was preventing us from being able to kill the Nyx should he decide to self-destruct, or self-destruct really was his only thing, his only option at that point. We wouldn't have been able to kill the Nyx within the 2-minute self-destruct timer when he was still at 25% armor. So we started to focus on the Archon, then the Phoenix self-destructed, then we put everything on the Nyx. Killed the Nyx, then we killed the Archon. It's going to change. Your targets are going to change based on what the rules are and what you have on the field. If you're going up against a similar fleet to yours, then you have to use your best judgment. You know what you're composed of, you know what they're composed of. If they're very DPS heavy, then focusing on taking out their E-War is primary, if they have any. If you're very DPS heavy and they have logistics, unless they have a lot of logistics on the field, ignore them. If you're putting out massive amounts of DPS, remember, a Guardian on the field is 1,000 DPS negated. Okay, look at it that way. So for every Guardian that's on the field, you need to do 1,000 DPS, plus DPS to kill a ship. It just depends on how they're fit and how you're fit. If you're a brand new FC, would you have greater benefit by ensuring scouts are experienced, or that your SC? What's an SC? I don't know what an SC is, sorry. Squad commander, thank you. All right. Since you can rely more on their experience to help you make choices. You know what? If you're a brand new FC, it's kind of fun to fly with everybody that's brand new because everybody's going to make mistakes, and cluster bomb of mistakes can be really, really funny sometimes, especially if you've set it up that you're going to lose your ships and you're going to go and analyze it afterwards. It can be really funny and really entertaining. If you want to, be a little more serious about it, having somebody that's a good scout, that's experienced at being a scout is a good thing, because they'll spot somebody, they'll have an idea of where that person's going to go or what that person's going to do or likely going to do, and that sixth sense can really pay off dividends. Hogfat says, if your skill levels and real experience are both low, is it a good idea to join fleets as, say, a tackle frig for the experience, or would it be enough of a hindrance to the fleet to cause problems, or should take more class lecture training first? If you're going to fly any ship, be able to fly it well. It doesn't matter what you fly as long as you fly it well. We have 2 rules in our fleets. Don't fly anything you can't afford to lose, and don't fly anything you can't fly well. And we define flying well as Tech 2 fit. If you're flying a Tech 2 ship, it has to be Tech 2 fit, or don't fly it. If you're flying a Tech 1 ship, then we want to see metaphors. Being a part of a fleet is never a hindrance. Being a part of a fleet is getting hard experience that you can't get anywhere else. Just be prepared to be very, very quiet and keep your ears open. You have 1 mouth and 2 ears. There's a reason for that. Deirdre wants me to talk about being a merc and how our contracts handle, how do you make it profitable, how do you get enough clients, etc., etc. I'll tackle that one once I just answer Yurth's question. If you know who the FC is of the opposing side, by all means go after them. You take out the FC, you take out their central point, and once you've caused them enough confusion, things start to degrade really, really quickly. If you are an FC and you are an inexperienced FC, you will want to make sure that you designate a secondary and maybe even a tertiary person to take over should the proverbial crap hit the fan. Okay, that's it. No more questions on FC stuff. Let's talk about the fun stuff. So, who has aspirations of being a merc? Don't do it. Okay, no, seriously. Seriously, Mercs. Once upon a time, I used to run Underworld Excavators. Underworld Excavators was the second best, trusted, most known Merc alliance in the game, next to Noir Dot. And the reason we were like that was because the way that we did things was a little bit different than the way a lot of other Merc corps operate. The thing you need to understand about Merc is that really all Mercs are griefers that want to get paid. Because really, what are you doing? You're war decking a corporation or an alliance. You're pretty much making sure that they can't do anything. You're killing their ships. You're making them look bad. You're making them feel bad. And at the end of the day, you're getting paid. What's the downside to being a griefer? Well, sometimes you ransom them, but they don't want to pay their ransom. So what do? You become a merc. You become a merc because you like to war deck corporations and make them suffer and get paid for it. How do you make money as a merc? That's a great question. It depends on what level you're at. Corporations like Noir Dot have a wonderful program where, based on your participation level and other factors, you get paid for pew-pewing. My alliance was based on the top 10 performers in the contract. Basically, the kill board gave you points for everything, and at the end of the contract, the top 10 performers, based on number of points, were rewarded with a percentage of the contract fee. How did I get clients? Getting clients, well, a lot of clients actually came as referrals from Noir when we first started out. Setting up strategic partnerships with people who are very, very busy is a great way to do it, but make sure that you have similar, make sure that you do things in a similar fashion to the way that they do it. You know, if you're kind of a greasy merc, you know, a no-good-nick, and you just like to go out and make people cry, you're probably not going to get a lot of business. If your E-Honor or E-Bushido is way out there and, you know, in your face, people are going to look and they're going to say, hey, you know, these guys are respectable, they're honorable, they, you know, go after their contracts, they complete them, they do their work. And having a good history is important as well. Client testimonials are a great thing as well. Is there a market for small mercenary outfits, or do you need to have a super capital fleet these days? Depends on where you want to work. If you want to work in nullsec or lowsec, Deidre, you need to have a super cap fleet. There's people in lowsec, there's groups in lowsec that are prime targets for mercs to want to come after, but they just won't touch them because they don't have the capabilities. You know, the group of badasses that I hang out with is probably a pretty good example. There's, you know, a dozen super caps, a Titan, and, you know, we don't want any nullsec space. We're quite happy where we are. Small mercenary corps will always have a place for small griefers to take them out, to take them on. Just realize that you're not going to be able to charge an awful lot. You're not going to get paid an awful lot, and it's not the most glorious work. It gets really tedious and boring after a while. A lot of people now are like, you know, take the mentality of when we get war decked, we're just going to turtle up and that's going to be the end of it. We're not going to do anything for the week that we're turtled. We're going to make this as boring as possible for you so you want to go away. And it's a hell of an effective tactic because really, what are you after? PvP. You want to kill stuff. You want to make stuff explode. But nobody's undocking. So what do? Well, you go and you do something else. Or you take on another contract and hope that maybe you can catch somebody undocking or being an idiot. Yeah, well, see, and that's the way a lot of corporations and alliances work now. And it's not fun. It's not fun for either side. It's not fun for either side. But it's a necessity. So is there a market for small mercenary outfits? I think the entire mercenary aspect of the game has been overdone. We got out of it because there were a lot of people coming on board that were calling themselves, but really, they weren't. They were mercs. They were people who just wanted to get paid for griefing corpse. And that's not what merc work is about. Merc work is getting paid to grief corpse for a reason. Wait, yeah, something like that. Do Merc Corps ever word deck each other just for some good fun? Sometimes they do. Noir and Privateers used to go at it. It's kind of funny to watch that. And, you know, the smack talk on the Merc Contracts channel gets pretty entertaining. Can you explain how a contract is executed from client contact to end of work? Well, the client contact will typically get a hold of the person who's responsible for contracting in the Merc Corp. Usually it's the CEO. And if it's not, I would suggest not dealing with the person. You want to deal with the ultimate decision maker, and if you can't deal with the ultimate decision maker, don't. When that person contacts, you negotiate a price based on your performance and their ability. You set the terms and conditions, you agree to it, and then there's a transfer of ISK and stuff happens. It's really not this, and it's really not that interesting. Believe it or not, it's work. And it gets tedious after a while when you're just looking at having fun in the game. I'm having probably 10 times the fun I had with these guys and getting way more high profile kills than being a merc ever got me. Now, I'm not saying don't be a merc. Well, maybe I am to some people. But, if you're going to be a merc, get in with an existing group and understand the game and understand, what are the good sides and the bad sides of it. And then if you think, you're better, go and form your own. Any other questions on mercs? What was our biggest contract? Our biggest contract was against the nullsec operation. Was also the most difficult one. Was against the nullsec operation. A guy had approached us and had said that he was real pissed off about certain things that happened, and so it's the same story over and over again. Just put different people in it. It was a lot of ISK because it was a lot of risk. Which, Hermes, I hope that answers your question about how do you calculate or estimate the fee. I mean, we had a base rate that we work with, and then it kind of went up from there. If there was POSs involved, it would go up substantially. If there was low sec or null sec involved, the risk was greater, so there would be more upfront fee. Always. Never started without getting paid. Always got paid first. Oh, sorry, Gideon, let me finish my thought on your question about biggest and most difficult contract. Well, the way we went up tackling it is that, the guy just wanted them to hurt. And rather than exploiting nullsec and going after them in nullsec, we went after them in highsec and went after the people that chose not to participate in nullsec and made them hurt and pay, and they smack-talked up a storm. It was hilarious, but inevitably we wound up with an 85 or 86% efficiency against them, and made us look good, made our contact happy, and there you go. Is being a merc profitable these days, or is it more of a chosen play style than the way to make money? I don't know. If you're a role player, there's other ways to get more out of the game in role play than being a merc. Can you make money at it? Yeah, it depends on a couple of factors, how well known you are or how greasy you're going to be. Do you think that mercenary work gets over-glamorized as compared to what getting the job done really boils down to? It sounds like your bread and butter is camping stations and home systems and trade hubs, not really all-out multi-ship battles. Well, Neum, that's pretty much it. It's a lot more glamorous than it's made out to be, because it's not glamorous work. It's a lot of boring crap. You sit there and you wait and you wait and you wait. Really what you're after is you're after a larger target that's 2 to 3 times your size in hopes that you might get a fight. Because what it comes down to is they're probably just going to dock up. Killboard stats. Is it the only way to prove one's qualifications to prospective Merc Corp? No, but it is the primary way that Merc Corps are going to look at you. Noir Dot makes all pilots, take an oath to a 4-to-1 kill to loss ratio. If you don't have at least that, you won't be in their corp for very long. Ours was an 80% efficiency. You had to have an 80% efficiency to even, and even then, it was a closed group policy. You had to have somebody vouch for you on the inside. Why is your contract interested in your efficiency? I would think there are your costs and also. Okay. Motorbit, contractors are interested in efficiency because they want to know that you can dish out the damage. They want to know that you have the ability to perform. They want to take a look at your past. They want to take a look at the size of corporations and alliances that you deck. They want to see your performance against those so that they know if they're going to pay you that their money isn't going to go to waste. Merc, or would you ever take a high-ISK contract against E-UNI? No, because I'm not in the Merc game anymore. Siki, have you ever been hired as a fleet attachment as opposed to 100? It's something that we flirted with and looked at, but in the end, we just decided not to do. If somebody wants to specifically hire our services for training, of course, we have that ability and make that available to people. But other than that, really not interested in running. We'll be more than happy to coach you and show you and work with you, but that's your fleet. You do it. What would you consider to be good smack tactics? No smack tactics are the proper way to do things. Being the ethical professional, you don't want to really smack it up. But when you start to see smack happening from the other side, you're irritating them. You're getting under their skin, and it's working, which is a beautiful thing. We had a no local talk policy when we were mercing. The only thing we ever said in local was good fight, even if it wasn't. Any other questions? Excellente. Then I'm going to wrap with you folks. Thanks for having me, even though I was a little on the late side. Again, I apologize for that. But thank you for having me as an instructor today, and I'm glad that I was able to pass on some knowledge.
Yeah, so thank you very much for doing this. For people here who currently are attending, we have another class signed up in 9 minutes. Game design in Eve with former game designer CCP Abather, now more commonly known as Celine. So you could take a break if you're planning to attend that one, because it may run 2 hours or longer. Also, that class will be held in the Game Design in Eve channel rather than in this one, on the Mumble, that is, so you'll need to move channels.